So, how many words should you be writing per day? And the follow-up question, how many people are you going to piss off by answering that question? So this video is going to be directed a little bit towards writers and musicians. However, I think anybody in any sort of self-directed business will understand the message that I'm going to have in this video. So it's really for everybody, especially if you're a small business owner or you're an entrepreneur on some level. I think this message has some validity. So if you ever spent time in these like writing groups on LinkedIn, there's like a sci-fi writers group that I'm in, or there's writing groups on Facebook. And then back in ye olden days, you used to have a group of friends who were trying to write books, and you'd read each other's garbage and comment about this and that and talk about writing. Whenever you're in these writing groups, a lot of discussion tends to come up and revolve around how many words should I be writing per day. And this question often comes from novice writers. And they have a good reason to ask that question, because there are, well-known writers like Stephen King who say, I write 2,500 words a day. Like Stephen King's old goal was 2,500 words a day. He wrote 2,500 words every single day. Once he retired, he stepped it down to like 1,500 words a day, which is less, obviously. And in response to that, you're going to have a lot of people say that that's BS, that it's quality over quantity, and if you focus on word count goal, that's a bad mindset. You're not going to be producing a quality product if you're focused entirely on how many words you're writing and this sort of stuff. And I think that side of it, there's some validity to it, because they're like, oh, it's better to write it right the first time than to write it and then have to revise it. And that's usually the argument I get. And I actually think that argument's pretty much BS, because you can write it perfectly the first time, but you're not going to know any given scene in a narrative, its total validity and its total contribution to the whole of your work, until you've finished the work and you see where it's ending and you see how you've executed the ending. Then there might be half a scene you need to cut. There might be material you need to move from one area to another. So you're going to have to do revisions no matter what. That's pretty much given. The least amount of revisions I've ever done with a book was Muramasa Blood Drinker, because I very thoroughly planned out what I was doing and I executed it really well, and I still did revisions. I just had less stuff that I cut compared to my other books. So you're still going to have to do revisions, even if you write everything perfectly the first time. Even if your prose is awesome, you're not going to understand the validity or the importance of that prose, or whether it even needs to be there until you finish the book. The other thing is that other side who's like quality over quantity all the time. I kind of think it's a little bit of a psychic excuse for non-productivity, for not having enough productivity. That they're like, yeah, I didn't write that many words today, but they were good words. They were good words, damn it. That to me, I think, is something that you should elevate yourself above, right? You shouldn't accept a low productivity with some sort of trade-off. You should have high productivity and high quality. That's what you want. It's not like there's not like this trade-off, like, oh, it's quantity over quality. It's like, no, it's quantity and quality. And here's the other thing about that. I think people labor a little bit under this illusion that you have to be inspired when you're creating. You need to throw that illusion out the window. Anybody who's been sufficiently involved in the arts for a really long time knows that your particular passion about it is going to go up and down all the time. And if you still want to have success in your field, you have to do it consistently. There are so many gigs that I played that I didn't feel like showing up for, and I showed up for them anyway, and I gave it my 110% and did my best to produce a great performance for my audience. There are so many days where I didn't feel like getting the guitar out, but I got it out and I worked through my goals and I put in my time on the instrument so that at the end of the day, I had those things completed. There's many times where you're not going to feel inspired to do it, and you need to do it anyway. So don't cop out by saying I'm working hard on making a quality product and I'm taking my time to do it. You should be able to work efficiently and produce good quality content. And having a word count goal every day is one way to enforce that. The main thing that the main virtue I would say to having a word count goal, or making yourself do a certain amount of work every single day, is that it's processes that creates the accomplishment of goals. It's not having goals themselves. If you say, I'm working on a book, okay, well, how are you working about it? That's really the important part. Because if you say, hey, I'm going to run a marathon, it's like, all right, what are you doing to prepare for that marathon? Because if the answer is not, I'm running a lot, then you're not really preparing to run a marathon. You've just said you would like to run a marathon. And I've met a lot of people who say, I would like to write a book, when that's what they mean when they say, I'm working on a book. I'm working on a book. What they really say is, I started a book and I'd really like to finish it at some point, but I just don't. I don't know how I'm going to do that. Most of the people I've met who give the quality over quantity argument don't necessarily have better books than the people who write more, and they, in most cases, and I hate to stereotype anyone who has this particular point of view, they haven't finished the big project. And this brings me to the last bit of that. So processes create the results, and so you should focus on making your process as good as possible, and that's going to make the result that much better. But the other thing is, there's literally no value to an incomplete product, whether you are in the arts or you're in business. There is no value, zero value to a product that hasn't been completed. If you've never finished the book, it's like you've wasted your time. Your time is a negative until you finished it and put it out and seen what you can do with it. And you're never going to feel fulfilled until you complete that project either, if you're doing it for yourself, as most artists are and should, to, at least on some level. They should be doing it, something that they care about. So you're never going to have that completion. An incomplete product is worth zero. If you're a businessman and you have a product, let's say you're designing some sort of widget that people need. You're designing a pair of sunglasses. If you never finish designing the pair of sunglasses, then it's literally worthless. There's no value to something a product that you've never put out to the public. So you have to complete your projects, and having a process that is going to force you to complete those projects is very, very valuable. And I could say that having, used this process, I've produced some really great results. As a musician, I had a goal at one point. It's like, I want to learn an hour of music to go gig with. And having that goal didn't do anything. I sat down and I worked every single day at learning a piece of music that I didn't know until I knew lots of music, until I knew an hour. And then that hour became 2 hours, and that 2 hours became like almost 3. And then it became, I know, like 2 hours memorized, and then like all this other stuff I can read, because I just kept working every single day with the same process in mind, learning something new and getting better at it, working measure by measure, putting it all together until I had the piece there. And I knew plenty of people that practiced somehow they practiced 2 hours a day and they never learned any music. And that's the difference between having that goal that you enforce upon yourself. I am going to learn these 2 measures. I'm going to perfect these 2 measures today. That's what's going to happen. And having a goal that's like, I'm just going to spend some time with my instrument. I know plenty of people that got their guitar out and just played a bunch of music they already knew. That's not practice. That doesn't do anything. As far as a book goes, my current flagship book, Water of Awakening, it's a great example of how that enforced creative process can produce a product. And I'm actually very proud of this product. I don't think it's quantity over quality. I think it's quality and quantity at the same time. Now, when I was writing this, I basically had a word count goal of 2,000 words a day. And I wrote this book in less than 2 months. So 2,000 words a day. This book's about 115,000, 120,000 words. It means I wrote it in about 60 days, and I actually wrote more than 2,000 words a day most of those days. There were days where I didn't get to write 2,000 words a day because I simply had zero time to sit down at the computer. What did I do the next day? Next day I wrote 4,000. Right? So I was always making sure that my progress was lining up with the acceleration there to get to the end of the book and finish. And I kind of teamed up with my friend Matt, and he had a book that he'd been working on for a while, and it's like, we're going to write 2,000 words a day and you're going to finish this book this month. And then we did that the last month, May. So I started this at the end of March, and I finished it before the last week in May. Then I spent a whole month designing, doing book cover stuff and revising it and making it really good and putting it out. And during those last months, I also spent like 2 or 3 weeks traveling. So within 3 months from concept to paperback in my hand, that's a pretty cool product. If you can imagine yourself doing that, that's 4 books that you could be putting out every single year if you are consistent with your process. And four books of a substantial length. We're not talking like little mini books. Like I have my little mini book here, Garmish and the Farmer. That's a mini book. We're not talking about 4 of these, man. We're talking about 4 of these that you can do every single year. That's pretty cool. And so if you look at it like that, making yourself have that process that's going to deliver you your goals, that's what I think about it. You're welcome to disagree with me, and you can tell me why down below. However, I think, especially for anybody that's looking to actually be productive and is starting out, or is looking to really build up a large amount of work, if you're a musician trying to learn a lot of music, or you're a writer trying to write a number of books, or you're a businessman really trying to build up a large client base or something like that, that consistent work. If you imagine you're building a client base, like I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna earn this many clients a week until I have this many, and you don't stop working until you get those maybe two clients a week. I'm gonna earn 2 clients a week in my accounting business. You don't stop till you've gotten those 2 clients and satisfied them. Boy, you're gonna have a really good business in a very reasonable amount of time. It's not like going on like I need to get 50 clients right now. It's like, no, work on getting them every single week. Make yourself get them. And at the end of that process will be the product that you want. So that's all I have to say about that. Thank you guys so much for watching. You can find my book, Water of Awakening, down below. It's 99 cents on Kindle, and it's $9.99 if you want this lovely paperback cover art by Karen Byatt. Absolutely beautiful. I'm very, very proud of this book, and I hope you will enjoy it as well. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.